Hiya folks, Toad Hancock's here with Visordown.com, and we are in stunning Tenerife for the launch of Triumph's brand new Trident, and I'm really happy, and that's because Tenerife is probably my favourite place to ride a bike because you've got stunning roads and stunning scenery. And the other reason is because Triumph have actually created an absolute belter of a bike that has impressed me in ways that I didn't think it would. I genuinely didn't think this bike was going to be as good as it actually is. And I'm going to go through why in a minute, but here's a very quick high-level overview of the machine. It is 7,195 pounds. It is a middleweight naked roadster, and it is A2 compatible. Not in this form, but you can get an APS throttle restriction, which will then make it a 47 horsepower bike. So you could effectively pass your test, jump on this bike either as full power or as A2. You've got a heavily revised engine that used to reside within the Street Triple S, and it's putting out 80 bhp and 47 pound-foot of torque, and it is really very good. Something all new from Triumph. Well, I say all new, let's say 75% new, because the engine was from a previous model but heavily revised. Other than that, swing arm, frame, suspension, wheels, brakes, bodywork, styling, all of that is all new. It is a triple. It has got loads of character. It's got a really lovely exhaust note to it, which is just so Triumph. It doesn't sound like any other triple on the market from MV or from Yamaha with their CP3 that they make. Really very juicy. You don't miss the power. On the roads we're riding today, I don't think I'd have had more fun if I was riding a street triple, because it just, the way it delivers its power and its torque, you've got 90% of the torque available between sort of 3,750 RPM and about 9,500 RPM. So you've got access to massive amounts of torque there, which just makes it so accessible and so easy to ride, and you can be really lazy with the gear changes. And if you miss a gear going into a corner, it really doesn't matter, because you've got that sort of mid-range there to back you up and spurt you out of the corner. And that is something that's missing in other parts of the class. In terms of the Honda CB650R, you do have to really rev that bike. And when you're looking at beginner bikes, do you really want people to be pinging it to the red line and sort of changing it really late? Probably not. So this has got 67 internal changes from the Street Triple that it has taken the engine from. I mean, some of those could be nuts and bolts and circlips, and some of them could be big changes. I know it's got a slightly heavier crank and different bore and stroke to the Street Triple S, just to try and sort of liven up the mixture a bit. It's a really good recipe, and it's got all those Triumph trademarks. It's got a very nicely set up electronic throttle. You've also got a really slick gearbox, which on this works beautifully with the clutch. And if you're clutchless shifting, which is what people will want to do when they're learning to ride and when they're moving up the ranks, you do sometimes have to be a little bit forceful on the upshifts but not the down. But then again, this bike only had about 110 k's on it when I sat on it this morning and started the press ride. The other thing that's all new with the bike is the chassis and the frame. So I'm going to talk about it because it bears no resemblance to any other Triumph model. If rumours are correct, it will bear a resemblance to Triumph models that might be incoming. And I can see the Triumph PR person sat over there who's looking at me with a wry smile. But it is all new, and it is totally different to ride than anything else from Triumph. It is definitely not a toned down street triple. It feels different. It feels so light and so agile, but then also it's not as knife edge in terms of the Street Triple is very fast to turn and it drops into turns really quickly. And this isn't. There's no nasty surprises with it whatsoever. I've been thoroughly impressed. We've got Nissin calipers up front, and I have to mention them because they're a pretty nondescript set of brakes, which if you were looking at brakes on the scale of high-end to budget, these would be firmly at the very budget end. They're 2-piston sliding calipers. but they're so good. There's bite and there's feel, and you can stop it, and the ABS will let you stop it, and it will let you bring the back wheel up just before it cuts in, and then it will drop back down again. It's a really confidence inspiring set of brakes on that. The back brake as well, I was shocked at how strong it was, because I like a strong back brake, and it's all there, and slow speed control, and when you're coming into a fast corner and you just need to nudge off a little bit of the speed and tighten the line up a bit, you can just dab the lever very, very gently and it will just do everything that you want it to do. Honestly, it's genuinely impressive, and I'm really, really surprised by this bike, and that's not something that I say very often. We've also got something that in this class is a bit of a rarity, and that's these decent spec Showa upside down forks. They're non-adjustable. I don't think you'd need to adjust them. If somebody's buying a first bike, and that is who this is pitched at really, the first time riders and the people who've just passed their test, I don't think you should really be twiddling with preload and compression and rebound damping on your first bike. You need to get you need to get your head around riding a motorcycle first and foremost before you start doing that sort of stuff. The suspension is very good. It's comfortable and plush, but it allows you to push on. It's not soft and wallowy, and there's enough support in braking for you to drive into corners, trail brake right into the apex of the corner. You've got 2-channel ABS. You can't switch it off, although if you do a big burnout, it will turn itself off until you reset the ignition, which is all good for us. And yeah, it's just a really sweetly set up bike, which I think the phrase that's going around my head at the minute is that it's unintimidating, but that does not mean that it's boring. Sometimes an unintimidating experience could be deemed as boring, but I don't think that's the case with this bike at all. Equipment wise as well, it's got toys. I mean, these ones have got heated grips fitted to them. They're an optional extra, and you can also upgrade it with a Triumph factory quick shifter as well, which I'm thinking is the same quick shifter on the Street Triple, which is a fantastic bit of kit as well. So it will just elevate the model that little bit more. You've got 2 riding modes as well. So you've got a rain and a road mode that adjust the throttle map slightly and change the ABS settings a little bit. So you've got toys and you've got buttons that you can press, and they do things, and people want that when they buy a bike. They want a bike that they can adjust, and they want, when someone's getting into biking, they want to be able to do all the things that the people on the £20,000 and the £10,000 sports bikes and nakeds can do, and you can actually do that stuff with it, which is really very cool. I'm going to talk about the styling very quickly. I love the styling of it. There's a couple of points that I'm not a huge fan of. The scallops on the side of the tank with the Trident logo, I think they're a bit modern and a little bit plasticky. It would be nice if they were either just the sides sort of flanked in and it was that painted colour all over. But other than that, when you sit on this thing and when you're riding this thing and when you see this thing going down the road, it just looks absolutely perfect. The proportions are really neat and compact. It doesn't feel cramped when you ride it. We've had 6 foot pluses. Our lead rider, Alan Batson, today was, he's about 6'4", and he was not cramped, or he didn't look ungainly on it whatsoever. So it's really, really nicely set up. I've ridden it all day, and I could ride it all day, go out again now if I hadn't had a beer, and happily ride it for another 6 or 7 hours. So I'm just going to talk very quickly about the rivals in the class. So we've got things like the MT-07, we've got CB650R, got the Z650, and even the SV650, the OAP of the middleweight naked class. I mean, this is the most expensive of the class, but I feel that it's the classiest. It's probably the best option if you are looking for a proper bike with TFT, with decent suspension, with decent brakes, with riding modes and toys that you can spec how you want it. I'm trying really hard to find something that I don't like about this bike, and I'm struggling at the moment. So we may as well do what we like. What do I like about this bike? I love the fact that you can just get on it and you can wring its neck and have a lot of fun with it, and you're never really breaking the speed limit, and it always feels that it's within itself, and the suspension is perfectly tuned. A lot of Japanese bikes, you'll ride them and they will feel soft and wallowy. The MT-07 is a prime example. The previous generation, not ridden the new one yet because it's not out yet. But yeah, it can be a little bit soft, a little bit bouncy. This is perfectly damped and very, very compliant, very comfortable, and that just makes it an all-round experience. The engine as well is a peach. It's a Triumph triple. We all know what that means. It means you've got bags of torque wherever you need it, and it makes a fantastic noise. The other thing that I like is the styling. I think from the front end this bike looks great. From the side, those scallops in the tank do kind of spoil it for me, but that's what Triumph have gone for, and I'm sure there are people that are watching this video right now who think they look great, so we'll leave it at that. So the verdict. I've just had the pleasure of riding the new Triumph Trident all day around the wonderful roads of Tenerife. It's a bit of a shame that you've not got to ride it yet, but what can I say about the bike that would make you want to ride it? It's good looking, it's quick, and it's really, really very accessible. It's unintimidating, and it's just an absolute joy to ride. I've had a lot of fun on this bike today, and if this is what you're in the market for, you definitely need to get yourself down to a dealership to give one a go, because there is a lot to love about this bike and very little to dislike. If you are an A2 license holder or someone that's just passed your test and you want a bike that you are not going to get bored of quickly, here is the Triumph Trident. Get down to a dealer and give it a test ride, because I tell you what, I've ridden it all day and I've not stopped smiling. There'll be a full written review of this bike going up on Visordown. You can check that out later. Cheers guys.